we doing, everybody? And welcome in to Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. We're sitting here. It's Wednesday. It's a fantastic Wednesday here in the great state of Wisconsin. Or hopefully, like I always say, it's a great day wherever you are tuning in. I'm hoping you got no rain. I'm hoping the sun is shining. It's a nice warm day. Not hot, not muggy, just warm, right? Just warm. I'm good with warm. I don't want it to get too hot, right? Can't handle the heat. Don't want the cold. I want the in-between. 60s into the close to 70. I like that. That would be awesome all year long. Sun shining, 60s to 70s. That would be awesome. But hey, it comes and goes, right? It comes and goes. We're getting closer and closer to the fall, so we know it's going to get a little bit cooler out there. But hey, it is a great day. You want to know why it's a great day? I had a Bears fan last night, and I want to talk about this today. I want to talk about the Jordan Love contract, and simply because there's a lot of people out there who don't understand the Jordan Love contract, and I want to talk about the Jordan Love contract because I got into an argument last night with a Bears fan, right? It's this big group on Facebook over there, and two of these guys were going back and forth about Jordan Love contract, and I was like, both these guys are doorknobs. Like, I'm listening to this, I'm like, I don't even know what's going on right now. So I jumped in, and I was like, hey, this is how the contract actually breaks down due to the cap hit, everything like that. And at the end of the day, I couldn't even believe it. I couldn't believe myself. The Bears fan actually said, oh, like, you're right. I couldn't believe it. I thought he was going to just take that thing as far as he could. I didn't understand how, right? Because you can look all over. That's how it breaks down. But, I mean, man, oh, man. But at the end of the day, I got a Bears fan to agree with me, so that was wild. That was a crazy, crazy moment in my day yesterday there. So I want to get into that today. I want to talk about the Jordan Love contract, just break it down, because there is still people out there who don't fully understand that it's not $55 million per year. It's a little bit of spread out. So I want to talk about that today. Brewers pick up a big, sketchy Game 1 win over the St. Louis Cardinals last night there. I want to talk about that game a little bit. I want to look at that Packers. We didn't get into the Packers-Broncos matchup a lot yesterday. I had the two fellows on there from Brutally Honest Sports and Chomping on the Bit podcast there, Kyle Edwards and Aaron Riley there. So I didn't get much into that game. I want to talk about that game today. Also, I have something to talk about with the Badgers today. So I want to start there. With the Badgers. And I want to look at, in every season, I truthfully sit here and I say to myself, in every season, there's that one game that there's multiple games, but there's those games throughout a season when you it's like it could be a turning point of the season. It could set you up for something great. It could start a win streak. It can get morale high before you travel and play somebody else. I see some of those games with the Wisconsin Badgers, and I want to talk about it. I want to talk about that schedule today, and I want to talk about some of the tipping points that I see in this season for Wisconsin. So two of the big ones for me, these two games shouldn't really be games, but I look at the game against Western Michigan, opening night at Camp Randall, 8 o'clock, under the lights. I look at that game and I say to myself, okay, first game of the year. I want to see Wisconsin show me something different, right? Because last season, we watched early on there, and they had that matchup with Buffalo. Buffalo hung around with them. They had that matchup with Washington State. Ended up losing that game to Washington State. And then Georgia Southern. That game was a little bit more of a blowout, but I thought Georgia Southern played close for a little bit of that game. It was close for that first half of that game, and then the Badgers turned it on in the second half. I want to see in these first couple games, and, it's not do or die, right, that the Badgers do this, to fully say to myself, like, hey, they're going to be okay this season. But I want to see the Badgers come out and just guns a-blazing. One time against an inferior opponent. I'm going to go with that, inferior. Because, Western Michigan, South Dakota, those two teams might be solid programs, right? I'm not a big a big know-it-all about Western Michigan. I'm not a big know-it-all about South Dakota. What I do know is the Big Ten is going to be tougher than that, right? I think they're going to have tougher games against Northwestern, Rutgers, Purdue than they will see in those three teams right there are tougher than the matchup they'll have, should be tougher than the matchup they'll have with South Dakota or Western Michigan. So right away, right off the bat, I want to see the Badgers start out hot. I want to see them take these first two games. I want to see them take these first two games handily, right? I don't want to see them just win them. I don't want to see it be close, right? Yes, sometimes you do have to survive close games against bad teams, right? I mean, it happens all the time in college football. That's what the craziness is, right? You can be just average Joe Blow team that walks into an opposing stadium. They're not ready for them. You gut punch them. They aren't ready for that. And they can't bounce back. You end up winning that ball game. We've seen those in the past. We've seen it happen. So for me, those two games will set the tone and set the table for what they have coming up next. Because after that, we will see Alabama coming to Camp Randall. Now, this isn't the Nick Saban Alabama. This is a different Alabama team, but it's still Alabama. This is still a good program in Alabama. Jalen Milroe's coming back. They have a good roster around him there. They still have good recruits in that room, good transfers. Alabama's still a solid team. So that Western Michigan game, that South Dakota game, getting yourself right, getting yourself physically right, playing up to game speed, not messing around. I hate seeing mess around against bad teams, right? I hope Western Michigan, South Dakota, starters are in there. We're able to mix and match guys late in that game because it's over. Right? That's the point you want to get to. You don't want to have Tyler Van Dyke having to play that game late in those two games are where I want to see like Braden Locke. I want to see Locke get in there. I want to see some second string wide receivers in there. I want to see, maybe some of the backup tackles, whatever it is, trying to mix and match pieces in there because those guys might play influential parts in the offense or defense, right? I'm not going to exclude the defense here because you want to see linebackers, everything. They're going to be interchanging throughout the game anyways, but you want to see some of them guys get extended snaps because what tells you that we don't lose a tackle against South Dakota? Well, linemen get hurt, right? We see it all the time. Linemen get hurt, so you want to see some of these second stringers in there because you got to know, hey, when I get to Alabama, I can trust this guy in there. It allows you to see them in a game against real, you're practicing, you're facing real defenses, but facing an opposing player who all he wants to do is get by you and hurt your quarterback, right? It's a different mindset almost when you get into a regular season, regular paced game versus a practice or even a scrimmage, anything like that. So those two games for me are huge for the Badgers to get out front and be able to handily win those games so we can see some of the Badgers' second stringers, some of the reserve guys get in there and get some experience before we get to the big meat of the schedule because the Badgers hit the meat of the schedule and it doesn't really slow down. According to a lot of analysts out there, this Badgers schedule might be way more daunting than what we think because I saw ESPN gave the percentage chance the Badgers had, the win probabilities for each game this season. So you look at the first two, 90% chance against Western Michigan, 94 against South Dakota. But then you look at the rest of the schedule here. Alabama, they're giving Wisconsin a 19% chance to pull that one off. Against USC, they're giving them a 29% chance to win that game. Purdue, they're giving them a 67% chance, but then traveling to Rutgers, 44%. Northwestern, 56, 19% against Penn State, 42% chance to win the game at Iowa, 17% at home against Oregon, 46% at Nebraska, and 60% against Minnesota there. If you're looking at what the analysts are thinking right now, this Badgers schedule is actually very daunting because I was looking, Alabama, USC, Iowa, Penn State, Oregon, those are going to be your big matchups. According to ESPN, and the analysts out there, we got to be watching the Rutgers game close. We got to be really watching that Iowa game close. And even the other games in there. You look at the game at Northwestern, a 56% chance. Now, these are all probabilities made up by analysts, so they really don't mean Jack Diddley squad, right? I could say right now I'm giving the Badgers a 21% chance to beat Alabama at home. It doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't mean anything at all. So the first two games for me are huge tone setters, and get some game reps in for these guys. Get some game reps, not just for the first string guys, but for the second string guys, because I believe at some point in the year, you're going to need somebody in that second string room, and it's going to be a matter of, are they ready to go in a game against Alabama in the first half or second half? Are they going to be ready to go up, ready to go in that game? Because, like I said, you got Alabama, USC, two tough games in a row. I think the Alabama game, for me, is going to determine a lot of what's going to happen when the Badgers travel to USC. Because if Alabama comes into Camp Randall and they just knock Wisconsin, it's gut punch after gut punch after gut punch, and the Badgers can't even figure anything out. It's almost like watching that game when the Badgers went to the Horseshoe and they played, or was it when they played at Ohio State? That's what it was, yes. When they played at Ohio State, Graham Mertz playing quarterback, and that game was over within the first couple minutes of the first quarter. Like, it was pick, Ohio State's got the ball, touchdown. Turnover, Ohio State's got the ball, touchdown. It was like boom, 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 done. Like, there was no breathing room for Wisconsin. You can't have that in that game against Alabama, because then I believe when you travel to USC, that makes that game, it's that much more pressure on that game, right? Because if you lose that game to Alabama, now you go to USC. Going to USC is already going to be tough. Now you're doing it after getting gut punched 45 times by Alabama at home the week after. I believe they're going to have a little bit of a bye there. Yeah, they're going to have a little bit of bye between Alabama and USC. So that's definitely going to help to get you right. But if you can pick up, I'm not saying that they have to win the game against Alabama. Now, would that be fantastic? Sure enough, it would be fantastic. But if they play that game close, like I'm talking end of the game, we're looking at a Badger loss, but they lost by, let's just say, the final score is like 35-24. If that was not 24 points getting added up there during garbage time, if that was 24 points against Alabama's number one defense, that gives you a lot of, the morale, everything in that locker room will be good heading to USC. If you get just the doors knocked off you against Alabama and it's like a 56-3 rout at home against Alabama, that's tough. That's a tough game to bounce back from, especially traveling to a solid team in USC. They're not, I don't think USC's as good as Alabama, right? So if I think you beat Alabama, that sets a tone for the season, right? That puts you on the map. Wisconsin right now, it's like the first time they haven't been in the preseason top 25 since like 2016. Like that's pretty good years of success right there. But right now, the Badgers are kind of flying underneath the radar. Not a lot of people are talking about them. A lot of analysts have them in we don't even think they could probably get close to the top of the Big Ten this season. We think Rutgers is going to be better than them. This is the moment against Alabama where, win or lose, you lose a close game to Alabama or you win a close game against Alabama. Like I said, I don't know if that's going to be, going to happen, but if you play close or somehow win that game, find a way to win that game, you set a tone for the rest of the season. You let everybody know, hey, Wisconsin football is not to be messed with. We're still here. We still got a solid program. So that Alabama game's a big one for me. Then you travel to USC. Then you got Purdue at home, Rutgers on the road, and Northwestern on the road. Those are going to be two big matchups for the Badgers. That Rutgers game, the way that people are talking about Rutgers, they got a couple good players in there now. That Rutgers game could set up a lot, because if you drop a game at Rutgers, now that Northwestern game gets amplified at Northwestern. Now you're pressured heading into Northwestern. And then after that, you got preseason number 8 Penn State. We don't know what they're going to be at that point. But you have number 8 Penn State coming to Camp Randall after that. You can't, in that stretch, it is going to be daunting if you lose those two games or one of those games. It will be daunting then to play Penn State, because right after that, because it's, everybody knows, it's in the back of your head. You have to travel to Iowa City to take on Iowa. That's always a tough barn burner game between Wisconsin and Iowa. And then you have Oregon right after that, followed up by Nebraska, who, Nebraska is, in some people's books, going to be a good team this year. I got to see it first, right? I got to see Rutgers be good first, right? These are two teams in Rutgers and Nebraska. I got to see it before I'm going to believe it, right? I have a better feeling about Purdue or Northwestern pulling off a win than I do against Rutgers and Nebraska. But two solid teams in total there. The Alabama game's definitely a turning point game for me in the season. That could set the tone for a lot of different things. And then I also look at that Rutgers game at Rutgers, setting up that big, daunting schedule that the Badgers have in the middle there with Penn State, Iowa, and Oregon back to back to back, and then traveling to Nebraska after that. This Badgers schedule is tough. I don't think a lot of people are talking about how tough the Badgers schedule is this season here. And if they end up, if I'm talking about at the end of the season, if you're talking about, 8-4, if you're talking about an 8-4 team or a 9-3 Wisconsin team, if you go 9-3 after this, with this schedule, hats off to you. That's a solid season. That is hard not to. If you go 9-3, you're up near the top of the Big Ten right now. That means you won one of these games against a very good opponent, and you're going to be talked about nationally. Now, I don't know. It's going to depend on how everything else shakes out, right? You still got Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Oregon, to mess around with there in the top of that. In the top of the Big Ten there. I don't know about, like Washington. I don't know what Washington's going to be able to deliver this year just because they lost so much, right? But good programs find a way, right? So if Wisconsin finds their way to 9-3, heck, if they make it 10-2, that would be craziness right there if they made it 10-2. But 9-3 season for Wisconsin in this one, that'd be downright just, I brush it off, take it to the bank, get ready for next season. I'm all good with that. I am seriously all good with that. But, honestly, looking at the schedule, Alabama, Rutgers, and I would say, to me, that Iowa game are going to be some of those turning point morale, those games that I feel like could set up a lot of things for Wisconsin down the stretch. Because after Iowa, playing Oregon, if you lose to Iowa, you play Oregon after that, that's a bad combination right there. And then you have Nebraska after that. And then you look Rutgers, you have Northwestern after that on the road. And the Badgers always seem to struggle at Northwestern. And then you have Penn State after that. They got some sandwich games in here where it is going to be tough. It is going to be tough on the Wisconsin Badgers there. So with that, that's about all I got for Badger Talk. Just wanted a quick jump into that there. But I want to mention the great sponsors of the show that make this thing happen here. First, Game Day Supply in Onalaska. Do you have a sports club or team? Are you looking for some sweet custom uniforms or apparel? Check out the awesome crew at Game Day Supply in Onalaska to help your team get the sweetest gear. Find them on Facebook at Game Day Supply or online at GameDaySupply.net. Also, Pittsville Farm and Home Center. At the store, they serve you anything from hydraulic hoses to red roses. Stop in and see the awesome crew at Pittsville Farm and Home Center in Pittsville, Wisconsin. Marshfield Motor Speedways, located just 3 miles outside of Marshfield on County Road H. Get down there yet this summer. Tons of family fun for all ages. Great food, great drinks, great atmosphere. Nothing better than a great summer day or night down at the track there. Marshfield Motor Speedways. Your hometown team, Century 21 Gold Key Realty. Call Peggy, Sue, or Anna to find your dream home, or if you're looking to sell. Find them on Facebook at your hometown team, Century 21 Gold Key Realty, or stop in and see them at their location in Marshfield, Wisconsin there. Sports C and sports cards and memorabilia located in the Marshfield Mall in Marshfield, Wisconsin. Get down there and see Al. He has everything you need from sporting cards and memorabilia, jerseys, model stock cars. He's got it all. Sports Scene in Marshfield. Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood, Wisconsin. If you've been injured recently, whether it was at work, whether you were mowing the lawn, you were playing with the kids, playing with the dogs, whatever you were doing, and you felt something tear, pop, didn't feel right, you went to the doctor, they said you had to see a physical therapist, I cannot tell you anyone better that you should go and see than Chad at Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood there. He'll get you right. He'll get you back to work, back mowing the lawn, back playing with the kids, back playing with the dog, whatever you're doing, he'll get you back there feeling better than ever. Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood, Wisconsin there. So, with that, let's jump into the Packers. Let's jump into a little bit of Packer talk for the day here. And I want to start with my original talking point to start this one out, and that was the Jordan Love contract situation. So, like I said, got into an argument with the Bears fan. You know how that goes, right? Packer fan, Bear fan, never really get along. And, I mean, these two were just arguing back and forth about this contract. And I'm not going to lie. When I first saw the contract, my immediate thought was $220 million, divide that over 4 years, $55 million a year. Okay, right? That's your immediate thought. That's not how it breaks down, right? So let's break it down. Okay, let's break it down here. So that contract, if you actually look at it, that contract was actually added on to the back end of the contract that the Packers already had with him. They signed an extension off of the extension that they already given him after his 4th year. They had the 5th year extension, and then they added this extension on the back end. So for the 2024 season, he's actually at a base salary of $3,500,000, right? His signing bonus there is $16,757,731. Remember that, because I'm not going to go through that big number every single time. But that will be the signing bonus every single year. That's the signing proration that'll be for that season. His workout bonus, $500,000. So you look at the cap hit. This is the big thing that Packer fans and everything, and if you're a Bears fan, whatever, you need to look at, you need to understand. The cap hit is $20 million for the first year. That ain't bad at all. Now we look at the second year. This is where the cap hit starts to increase a little bit. It doesn't get crazy until we get towards the end, but this is where the cap hit starts to really take its toll. So in year 2, 2025, next season, he's about $12 million, $11,900,000 there. He's going to get that signing bonus I told you of just about $17 million, $16,757. He's going to have a roster game bonus of $600,000, and then he's going to have a workout bonus of $500,000. So that cap hit's going to be about $29 million, just over $29,755, right? He's going to be just over that there in the cap hit in 2025. In 2026, that's where the cap hit really starts to hit the Packers, right? In 2026, his base salary is going to be $10 million. Signing bonus is the same. He's going to have a roster bonus there of $600,000 there, and option proration of $7,900,000 there, and then the workout bonus is going to be $500,000. So the cap hit there is going to be $36,157,731. There's your cap hit, right? Okay, so now it gets a little bit worse. And now we're going to see this get a little bit worse for Green Bay. So now we get into the 2027 and then 2028 season. So the Packers made this thing work. Jordan Love and the Packers worked this thing out. So that way, the Packers basically have a 4-year window. They opened up this window. We have 4 years where we're going to hope it all goes right, and then we're going to reevaluate on the backside of it and say, did it go right? Did it go wrong? What are we going to do now, right? What are we going to do now? Are we going to potentially sign another extension? Because now if they sign another extension out of that, now this money can all get pushed back, right? And then you're going to have dead cap hits through the roof when it comes back on the backside of this. But you get there when you get there, right? That's something that you got to deal with on the end of it. Because right now, if you actually look at the dead cap hits that the Packers would have. So let's look at this first. In 2027, base salary stays the same as in 2026, $10,400,000. The signing bonus is the same. Roster bonus, $600,000. The option turns into $14,200,000 there. The workout bonus there is going to be $500,000. So that all adds up. Now we're at $42,457,731. That is going to be the cap hit for the Green Bay Packers in 2027. Now we roll it into 2028. Now we're into 2028. We see it at $43,900,000 will be the base salary. The signing bonus drops a little bit, I guess, down to $15 million, so it makes you look a little bit better there in that 2028 season. The option turns into the same, $14,200,000. Workout bonus same at $500,000. So there you go. The cap hits up to $74,200,000. Now we get into the rest of the contract, right? This is where it's all going to slowly add up, right? And it's actually going to end up, I believe it ends up like $237 million is actually what the contract could be worth when it's all said and done. because now we get into the 2029 season, and this is where the dead cap hit's going to hit. Okay, this is where the dead cap is. $34 million on the cap hit in 2029. This is when he's a free agent, right? Supposedly a free agent if the Packers don't resign. This is where he would become a free agent. 2030, $14 million, and then in 2031, $6 million, right? And that's like I said, barring that the Packers don't go into that 2027 season and they say, okay, Jordan Love, hypotheticals here. It's a hope as a Packer fan, right? But hypotheticals. Jordan Love has won 2 MVPs. He took us to a Super Bowl. It's been all fantastic on this side of, the NFC North. Let's make a new deal, right? So now this all gets pushed back. That, the base salary is going to drop. Everything's going to drop. The cap hit's going to drop. Everything's going to drop itself down. There's a potential out in 2027. That'll be the potential out for Green Bay. The 3-year, $163 million. That'll be the contract basically there. The dead cap will be at $51 million after that's all said and done. So the Packers do have that potential out in 2027. But if they do decide to extend it on, so they decide to extend it on, now they push that cap hit off. Now they can expand themselves a little bit, right? They can expand themselves a little bit there. So that is about cut and dry, as simplified, I guess, as I can make it. That is simplified as I can make it there, the contract details of Jordan Love. So it's not this, it's a big number when you look at it, but when you actually look at the breakdown year by year of what Jordan Love is going to be on a cap hit to Green Bay, the 4-year window is there for Green Bay. The 4-year window is there between this season and 2027. That'll be that 4-year window. Then after that, it's the reevaluation time. It's do we have what we thought we had in Jordan Love? Do we have somebody better? I don't know if Michael Pratt's going to develop into that guy or if Sean Clifford. I don't think Sean Clifford's ever going to be that guy. But if they bring in another guy, right, they draft a rookie, just like they love to do. They draft a rookie. They tool him behind them. Okay, now do we think that this guy can be that guy in Green Bay? Well, now we have a big dead cap hit, right? The dead cap is going to be the thing that kills the Packers after that. They're going to be kind of in that situation. Not, kind of like when Aaron Rodgers, Dave Bakhtiari, that kind of deal, right? It's going to be a dead cap hit that the Packers have to deal with. But you just hope, you really do, end of the day, Jordan Love pans out and the Packers can just roll with this thing for 10 years or so, right? And then we ship him off to the Jets, then he goes to the Vikings, then he retires. That's where Rodgers got to go yet. You know what the best part is? If the Vikings don't have what they think they have in J.J. McCarthy and the Jets are done with Aaron Rodgers, it might happen. It might still happen. It is like the football. It is like football just wants it to happen. They want this trend to continue. Everybody does. I want to see him go to the Vikings now. I want to see him do something crazy with the Vikings and then retire. Right? Maybe not go to an NFC Championship game unless if it's against Green Bay. Then we could live with it. That'd be a heck of a matchup. Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay versus the Vikings, NFC Championship. Winner goes to the Super Bowl. That'd be crazy. Can Rodgers get to his second? Can Jordan Love, wherever he's at in his career at that point, can he get to his first, second, whatever it is? I mean, that's storybook. That's storybook. Just like it'd be storybook if the Jets and Packers played this season or if they found themselves somehow both in the Super Bowl, that'd be storybook ending to Aaron Rodgers' career. If he won it, he's leaving. He's done. He's retiring. There's no way he tries to come back if he wins the Super Bowl. I just can't see it. If he wins the Super Bowl, I really do believe Aaron Rodgers will end his career right then. He'll be like, all right, I'm out. Darkness retreat, something. I'm out of here. So, I mean, those are all hypotheticals. Would it be awesome? Probably. It'd be pretty cool to see there. But I want to talk a little bit of Packers. I want to talk about that game against the Broncos. Did we really learn anything? So some of the, I guess, takeaways, the big takeaways from this one here, they didn't have a very good joint practice against the Broncos from everything I saw and everything that I heard. And listening to Matt LaFleur, he said that was a long night. Certainly, I was hoping our guys would come out with a little more strain, effort, and grit after kind of getting humbled the other day at practice. To have it happen again, not where we want to be, I think it's a good lesson for our guys. It's a little different, I would say, in terms of how you have to judge it. It's great to see a lot of young guys go up against NFL starters. I thought we showed more resiliency, more fight in the second half, especially defensively. There were some good moments. So defensively, yes, there were some good moments. Offensively, few and far between. I thought Emmanuel Wilson's one catch he had, the one-handed grab he had, the 22-yard run, that was about it on the offensive side. That was about it on the offensive side for things to talk about. The tight end room was terrible. The tight end room was, I thought was actually terrible in that game. I'm thinking of the guys there. Davis did not look good for Green Bay. I thought Davis looked very bad. I think it was the tight ends as a whole. Davis, Sims, Joel Wilson, every single one of them. You look at Wilson, he was, that interception that they had, could you blame it on Wilson? Maybe. Like LaFleur said, I think we've got to flatten that route out a little bit and a little bit more, try to show up in the window quicker. That's what LaFleur had to say there. Sims, he missed a block on a punt, and there was pass protection problems with him there. Clifford got clocked because of it there. Davis, he had an offensive holding. That's all he did in the entire game. So there was not a whole lot happening in the tight end room. Grant DuBose did absolutely nothing in this one. He had 3 targets, didn't catch anything. Nothing really to talk about. I was hoping he would find it in this game. Sean Clifford, Michael Pratt did not look solid in this game here, but I'm also going to say it was a lot to do because the number 2 offensive line, the tight ends, nothing was going right for Green Bay offensively. Let's just look at that as a whole. Nothing was going right offensively for Green Bay. Now, if you go into week 3, into this last one against the Ravens, and they somehow find a way to lay a stinker egg like this again, okay, now we have to reevaluate that backup quarterback position because you need a solid backup quarterback, something that you can throw out there and for a game or two if you have to, and just hope, right? Just hope that he can figure it out. I don't know if these two are those guys yet. I really don't. I don't think Sean Clifford is that guy. Michael Pratt's young yet. He could maybe develop into that guy, but he's young. So I don't think you give up on Michael Pratt yet. But Sean Clifford's giving you the time. Now, like we talked about yesterday, Ryan Tannehill's out there. There's a couple other guys out there on the free agent market. Do you just bring them in and just say, hey, you're my number 2 for now? Like, do you do something like that? You don't want to end up in a situation. Look at the Browns. You don't want to end up in a situation. Now, it did work out because Joe Flacco came in and was just lighting the world on fire for a little while. But you don't want to end up in that situation. You don't. You don't want to call one of these guys as they're dropping their kids off at school and saying like, hey, do you want to come down and potentially be our starting quarterback because Jordan Love? You don't want to do that. You need a solid backup in the room. And I don't know if Green Bay truthfully has that where you can trust them to go out there for a game or two or whatever it has to be to get the job done for you. I don't know if Green Bay has that in the room right now. Some of the, good performances. I thought seeing Hopper out there for an entire game, that was huge. Hopper has been, he was injured, hasn't been able to get out there a lot. Seeing him, he's physical, he's fast, getting up at the ball, and he hits guy. He's a hard hitter. I think seeing Hopper out there was huge. And he's learning a lot. He's learning a lot from Quay Walker in there at middle linebacker. I think those are big things there. Christian Welch, he had the one, big play in the entire game with that interception. Outside of that, not a whole lot happening. And then Brenton Cox. I thought he had a solid performance. I thought Brenton Cox was solid. Outside of that, there just wasn't a lot of good that came out of that game. There just wasn't a lot of good that came out of that game there. And, the best 2 moments were the interception and safety. Outside of that, you could have forgot about that game before it even started. Looking at, some of the things that didn't work out for Green Bay, Greg Joseph missed the only kick attempt of the entire game. So the Packers' kicking competition doesn't get anywhere near settled after that, which is still a problem. I really don't get. We can't be having a competition for the kicking spot this late. I get if you're trying to figure out who's going to be the number 2 corner. I get that. I get if you're trying to figure out who's going to be the number 2 safety alongside McKinney and alongside Jair there in the cornerback room. I get those. We're talking about kickers right now. I mean, sitting here and we're still questioning if Anders Carlson can be that guy, if Greg Joseph can be that guy, you got problems, right? That's something that needs to be solved. That is something that needs to be solved. You can't go into the first regular season game with all these questions about, oh my, is he going to be able to hit this? Is he going to be able to kick a 40-yarder and put her through the uprights? Or is he going to be 4 for 8 from that spot? You can't have those big ifs because 3 points is a lot. We noticed that in football games, right? Those 3 points against the San Francisco 49ers that Anders Carlson missed out on, that could have been huge down the stretch. That changes the game, changes the mentality of the opposing team, how they're going to defend you, what's going to happen, how fast they're going to work the ball down the field, how much clock they're going to leave you, everything like that. It changes the game. Being in a 1 possession versus a 2 possession, putting yourself up 3 points late in the game versus missing the field goal, and now we're playing defense, now we're trying to defend it. There's just, I mean, there's things that you are okay with, there's still being a battle for. One thing that I'm not okay with, kicker. I'm not. Offensive line, sure. You want to use, you have a battle at the offensive line position between 2 valuable candidates for it. I'm in for it. I'm all for it. I want the best guy, right? Defensive line, same thing. Linebacker room, everything. When he gets to the kicker, I want a guy that's just going to walk through that door. Harrison Butker, right? I want that guy. I want that guy who walks in. He walks in at the start of training camp. I know he's that dude. I know he can get the job done. I don't need a guy like Justin Tucker who's going to knock it in from 60, what was it, like 63 or 64? I mean, something crazy. He could probably kick further than that, but I don't need that. I don't need that guy. I want a guy who's going to be consistent from 50 in. I want that consistency. I don't think the Packers have that consistency yet. So I am definitely looking at that kicker room, and I'm saying I think the Packers are still in trouble with that. I think they're still in trouble with that right now. This last preseason game for Green Bay, for a lot of these players, is going to be a gut check for them heading into the regular season because there's a lot of guys looking to make the roster yet. There's a lot of guys looking to make the roster. And looking at what LaFleur said, he said he's not sure how he's going to handle playing time for the starters against the Ravens, but his message to the rest of the roster was very clear. The thing I challenge our team on is you've got to check yourself every play. Are you giving your max effort? Are you straining the way you want to strain? And is the style of play what we want to see? It'll be a good opportunity for all of us to evaluate and see the guys that really want to put it all out there, not only for themselves, but for the team. You're looking at second string guys right now, and you're saying, Kalen King, all them guys in the cornerback room. You're looking at this wide receiver room between Heath, Torre, DeBooz. You're looking at every one of them guys, and you're saying, how much do you want it? How much do you want it? You want to see it here in this game 3. That is what LaFleur's saying. You want to see it in this game 3. The kicking competition. You want to see throughout this week in training camp against the Ravens in the joint practice and then getting into that preseason game. You want to see them go out there and you want to see them focused, laser focused, putting her through from 40 yards, right? Greg Joseph missed that one from 47 and it was wide right. Like not even close. And it's like, this is the competition we got going on. If there's still a competition, I just watched him miss this. What's the flip side look like? So there is a lot of things that the Packers are definitely concerned about right now. They're definitely concerned about right now there. But I got to get to the poll. We had a poll of the day. So I want to look, getting to my poll here, set up a poll. If you were rebuilding the Packers wide receiver room. Now, I'm not saying you want to rebuild right now because they technically are rebuilding and I like what they got. But you're starting from scratch. You got your options between Donald Driver, Devontae Adams, Sterling Sharp, Antonio Freeman, Jordy Nelson, and I had to add this guy because of one guy on the page said I need to add Christian Watson. So Christian Watson's on there too. So I asked it out there. Had a good amount of actually people that voted in on it, and these are the results here. So Devontae Adams, 40% of the votes went towards Devontae Adams. We saw Hayden Health win for Devontae there, Scott Savage, Wisconsinite Podcast, Hunter Ringel, Stevie Kamare, Tim DeJew, Cody Lawrence, Torres, Maria, Chris Russell, Lola Mueller, Todd Pavlovsky, and Kyle Edwards. They all went Devontae Adams there. In second place, and by a close margin, we see Donald Driver. Donald Driver there, 6 votes, 20% there. Solid on that one. Bridget Pickett, Mike Spedley, my grandma, so I'm going to call Pam Meyer, votes Donald Driver, big Donald Driver fan there. Click it or ticket, right? Click it or ticket there. Chris Russell and Jim Gain there said Donald Driver. Dave Olson, Chad R. Draper, Paul Rothenbach, Rick Hamaker, and Mike George all voted 16%. 16% of the votes went towards Sterling Sharp. I thought Sterling Sharp would be a little bit higher in there. Jordy Nelson, Bridget Pickett, she voted for a couple there. Hayden Health voted for a couple. Mike Spedley, Chris Russell, and Ryan Larson, they all went with Jordy Nelson. And then Cody Peters went for Christian Watson. He's the guy he wanted here. He wanted Christian Watson on there. That's the guy he's starting with. So he was on there. I can't believe Antonio Freeman. I like Antonio Freeman. You know, just looking all time. I just want to look receiving leaders all time for the Green Bay Packers. Let's check it out here. Donald Driver leads them, a metric boatload of yards there. Then we have James Lofton, Sterling Sharp, Devontae Adams. Antonio Freeman is 8th on the list there in total yards. Let's see, catch percentage there. Oh, that doesn't even count because I got guys on here who have 3 catches and 3 targets their entire career. We can't count that there. Let's see here. Games played. Well, we gave one to here's Brett Favre. Brett Favre gets to crack off the top of this games played in the receiving department for Green Bay. He gets to crack it off. 1 target, 1 reception, -7 yards. That a baby. Gotta love you some Brett Favre there. Donald Driver in receptions. He leads them in receptions there. I mean, Donald Driver's unreal. I don't know. The Antonio Freeman. I did like Antonio Freeman. I'm not going to say I would have voted for him. Sterling Sharp is very, very underrated. I think he is very underrated. Very underappreciated is Sterling Sharp. 112 games and 595 receptions for 8,000 yards. That's impressive. So Sterling Sharp was downright impressive there. But Donald Driver, I mean, those are 2 guys, Hall of Fame. Like, they got to be. Those are, you look at the numbers. It's like, come on there. Ridiculous stuff. So let's get out of the Packers. Let's jump to the Brewers here quick to wrap up the show. Just quickly, the Brewers did get that game 1 win last night there against the Cardinals, a big one. I thought that was a huge game the Brewers needed to get, and it was on the back of Frankie Montes. Oh my goodness. This was a battle between 2 guys at the Brewers. One guy a lot of people wanted the Brewers to get in Eric Fetty there. And one guy that the Brewers did get that a lot of people weren't high on in Frankie Montes. So this was the battle of those 2 guys. Cardinals got Fetty at the trade deadline. Brewers got Montes. Montes was spectacular in this game. 7 innings, 1 hit, 3 strikeouts, 1 walk. Not huge strikeout numbers, but he got outs. That's what matters, right? End of the day, I heard Tim Dillard say it, and it's all that matters, right? Getting outs is what matters. You made a pitch that got an out. That's all that matters. Even if it's a ground ball, fly out to the wall, whatever it is, you got out of there. Frankie Montes was spectacular for the Brewers. Nick Mears tried to blow it there. 2/3 of an inning, 3 hits, and 2 earned runs in this one. Jared Koenig then came in and he mopped it up for him there, 1/3 of an inning with that strikeout. And then Devin Williams comes in the 9th, gets a little sketchy like Devin Williams loves to do to us. 2 hits in that inning, 1 walk, ends up with 3 strikeouts in his appearance, locks down the save, his 5th of the season so far. Great stuff there. We saw RBIs out of Contreras. Frelick with a good game. He had a hit. He had a triple in this one. He had a base hit in this one that drove in a run. He's got that RBI. And then Joey Ortiz. Frelick triples. Ortiz singles him in. Nothing better than that. A little bit of speed on the base pass there with Frelick. So great stuff there. 3 runs. That last run the Brewers got there by Contreras driving in that run. That was huge. Because without that, I mean, Matt Carpenter goes deep in the bottom of the 8th, makes it a 3-2 game. Without that, you're talking 2-2. heading into the 9th inning there. Instead, that insurance run was massive because the Brewers end up winning that game 3-2. 8 hits for the Brewers, 6 for the Cardinals in that one there. That's going to set up game 2 of this series. Tobias Myers will go for the Brewers. He'll take on Kyle Gibson for the Cardinals in that one. That'll be a 6:45 start there on Bally Sports Wisconsin. I believe it's also on FS1 there. So you can check it out, Bally Sports Wisconsin. If you don't have Bally Sports, you can check it out on FS1. So you get a little bit of a double dip there on your, tonight here. Big game coming up here. Also, some good news and some interesting news. Trevor McGill is activated from the 15-day IL. So Trevor McGill is back with the ball club here. Looking at what he had to say, he said, I just think the team does a good job of making sure guys are ready to go out there. The respect on both ends was there, and they gave me time to get healthy. And on top of that, to get healthy, but to feel like I'm in a spot where I'm immediately helping out when I come back. That's big stuff. That's big stuff there. But we look at what happened in that move, and that is Elvis Paguero was optioned to AAA Nashville. And it's looking at what Pat Murphy had to say. He said it's tough having to option Peggy because Peggy's been great in so many ways, nicknamed Peggy, I guess. It's always a sad day when you have to option a player, but that's part of it. Peggy's going to be a big part of our future, I think Murphy added there. So, I mean, Paguero gets optioned. I didn't think he was doing that poorly, but he had to make room somehow. Right? You had to make room somehow. Bryce Wilson's your long relief guy as of right now. You look at it, end of the day, Paguero had options. So Paguero's the guy who gets sent down. Blake Perkins, he's looking at potentially coming back. August 22nd is his potential return from the injured list there. But he took batting practice on the field before the opener against the Cardinals, and Murphy said we'll see how he feels over the next 2 days here. Rob Zastrinsky, still nothing to know about him yet, but we do have good news on the front of Enoli Paredes, who threw a scoreless inning for Wisconsin on August 18th. He was actually back-to-back there with McGill there in that game. They were two key cogs in the bullpen there in a win for the High A Timber Rathers there. Looking like he was hitting 95 miles per hour in that scoreless first inning that he played in there. I mean, it did include a diving catch by Hedbert Perez, so that was a great catch by Perez there that saved a little bit. But Paredes did throw that scoreless inning, so great stuff there. Hopefully get Paredes back into this bullpen too, because if they slowly start adding bits and pieces back into this bullpen, it only strengthens it, right? And you still have, we talk about Paguero getting sent down. You still have an arm like that sitting down there in AAA. So you still have the ability to move guys. I mean, there's a lot of good arms down AAA. I want to get into that tomorrow here on the show, is talking about some of the arms that they do have down in AAA, some of the young guys that we could potentially see at some point when the rosters expand for the Brewers coming up this season here, coming up late in the fall, right? Roster expand. Love to see the Brewers potentially bring up some of these rookies. So with that, that's about all I got for today. Like I always say, like, subscribe, leave a review. Definitely send us some fan mail. Go down in the bio, click send us a text message on there. Send us a text message. Let us know, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you want to hear more about, anything like that. But with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. But until I talk to you guys again tomorrow, deuces.
Yeah, oh my Lord, watch me sway. Darkness falls and we all pray, hoping for the light of day. Down to the river I have held the devil's hand, felt the weight of my own sin, burdened by the heart of man. Down to the river, down to the river.